Right. Good afternoon, friends. Good afternoon, Professor Dr. Kunal Sharma-ji.
Good afternoon, sir.
I welcome you all in our stage 2 program of our course. And in the stage 2, like the stage 1, we'll have around 30 lectures plus 1 or 2 invited talks. And whatever program we have charted out, as per that, this lectures will go on till 5th of April this year. And tentatively, we have fixed up the date for exams also. That is on 15th April. So first of all, my heartiest congratulations to all the participants who have written the exams and have shown really full interest and complete dedication for the course. As far as results are concerned, we will be, I think, finalizing the evaluation by this weekend, not weekend, by this week itself. And hopefully by Friday, we should be able to inform you about the results. And today's lecture, as you would have perhaps noticed, lecture will be delivered by Dr. Kunal Sharma on chemical warfare agents. Dr. Kunal Sharma doesn't need any introduction. You are already familiar with him. You know his full background and you have enjoyed his lectures also in the stage 1. So I'll not repeat that part. But before I hand over the class to Dr. Kunal Sharma, I have one just a small request. In fact, you have all maintained very good attendance. But then there were issues regarding some of the participants who attended the course through YouTube. Bevex, there is no issue, but YouTube, when you register, we don't come to know about your attendance until unless you subscribe, write some comment, or confirm your attendance. You confirm your registration. So I that those who are joining this course, this lecture on YouTube, please register your attendance on everyday basis. I mean, every lecture basis. So that is one thing I wish to inform you. And the 4 next lectures will be delivered by Dr. Kunal Sharma, as I said. So, yeah, just one more thing. Please do not worry about the results. You all have written the exams so confidently. So I'm sure that you would be knowing about your performance very well. So still everybody is eager, of course, I know. So we'll tell the results very soon. So best of luck. And once again, I welcome you all. And I request Dr. Kunal Sharma to please take over the class. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So again, a very good afternoon to all of you. So as this is the second session,
Good
so I
afternoon, sir.
hope you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I hope you all are very much aware of now chemical agents, biological agents, radio and nuclear agents. So now we will go one step ahead regarding the incident management. How will we manage any incident and what are the incidents? What are the protocols? All things will be taken simultaneously one by one. So starting with the agent management or incident management, you all know very well about the difference between incident and event. Event is something planned and incident is something unplanned. So we will go in that way. Whenever we talk about the CBRN per se in disaster or say man-made disaster, it is basically involvement of mass casualty or mass impact on the whole society or community or stakeholders. It is the difference between normal disaster or say man-made disaster or CBRN disaster is the only one that its impact is very much. And during the last session series also you have witnessed that yes, chemical or biological and radionuclear have bigger impact than the other disasters. Secondly, the time frame is also very small. In a very small time, it can propagate to a very big zone or bigger regions, and we cannot zone it, or we cannot notify the overall impact of any agents, say for chemical, biological, radio, nuclear. So I have kept the topic as chemical warfare agent, but yes, you can take or understand the incident management or the consequences related to incident in terms of C, B, R, and E, and also. So we have to follow up on the incident management. So what all things are involved in this can be very easily seen. I have kept it in four major bullets. For example, it involves number one, immediate removal of contaminants from victims and treating a large number of casualties while ensuring the safety of responders. See, if you can visualize the particular thing when you go for a response for any flood or say landslide or any earthquake, you can easily understand yes, the safety responders can be mitigated, or how to remove the victims also is very much defined in case of landslide or say flood or this type of natural disasters, because the contamination is not, and it is not contagious, you can say, from one people to another people. But in case of CBRN, talk about the biological, talk about the chemical or radionuclear, it is contagious in some extent, not to for the each and every agents, but yes, up to some extent. So the first thing, the involvement of CBRN incident management is immediate removal of contaminants from victims. And second, treating a large number of casualties while ensuring the safety of responders. It is very much evident those who go to save a victim can be trapped in case of CBRN incidents or accidents. So the involvement of CBRN is very much, it should be understood very much. Second, it includes accidental release during peacetime operations as well as war fighting. So it is again, involvement is that we cannot quantify that the leakage of any chemical or the explosion, as we have seen in the past Vishakhapatnam leakage or say Bhopal gas disasters, or is this type of disasters or emergencies. It was not a war zone type or it was not a continuous process, but again it come into picture. So we can easily say it can happen anywhere due to accidental release or due to any other quantification. It can also arise, includes ethnic conflict, terrorism, and assassination. So you all have learned about the topics, and you all are more trained than any of the faculties because we are domain expert. But you all are experts of overall package of CBR. So you can easily say correlate the inclusion of CBRN incidents. What it describes, the third point I kept is describes. It describes CBRN terrorism as terrorist use of CBRN material as a weapon. As we all know, the nature of chemicals can be of dual type. Similarly, the biological agents you have seen very much, or I have given you example of a drug called fentanyl. I think I have quoted this example that a team of DRI caught a person in Indore who was using a fentanyl drug. Fentanyl is basically an aesthetic drug used for the operations time, and he uses that particular drug to use it as a say weapon for mass destruction. He wants to attack some United States people. It got Mexican funding from something. So a simple chemist sitting in a isolated location can very much use biological agents or chemical agents and can act as a terrorist. Next, disproportionate effect on all aspects of efficient manage of casualties. Again, it is not very much evident that how much it impact, and we cannot again quantify that how much is the extent of certain chemicals or radiological agents or say biological agents to an individual or groups. It depends or it quantifies man to man. And the last point is this: in the incident management, it considers modifications to triage, as I've already quoted. When we go for the triage part or the scrutiny of the victims, it requires modification. We cannot go with the routine or the say last SOPs given in the profession, medical profession, that okay, this is the methodology or mechanism of triage and you can do, because n number of effects come into picture for triage part also. Managing contaminated or contagious casualties also is a very big thought for consideration. How to manage this contaminated victim or the contagious people, because as a barehanded or as a responders, whenever you go and you suggest somebody that okay, you can go in this way, is again a tough thing. Identification and appropriate management of intoxicated or infected or irradiated injured casualties also points of consideration. So whenever you go for the incident management, if you see this particular slide, we can easily collect or correlate that it involves, includes, describes and considers n number of parameters. I have written here only for your understanding purpose. Yes, you have to focus upon immediate removal of contaminants, treating large number of casualties, accident releases in peacetime and wartime can be used as terrorism, and disappropriate effect of efficient management of casualties, triage, contaminated, and identification, and appropriate management of injured casualties. So, if we see this slide and if we recall, we can easily understand whenever we go for the incident management, we have to focus upon these four major fundamental parameters. Then only we can respond for the incident management, especially for CBRN. Now, if we go for the categorization, it is basically or broadly considered into four particular categories. First is minor, second is category 1, category 2, and category 3. We will try to understand step by step what is the minor categorization, what is category 1, what is category 2, what is category 3. Because whenever you go for the response mechanism or say incident management, in case of wartime, yes, you have to focus, or during the disaster, you have to focus, but pre and post also you have to focus on certain points which will be very much beneficial if you know the categorization, and you can easily respond as per the category of the incident. So as I quoted here, only we have to remember one is minor and category 1, 2 and 3. As you have learned about the level of disasters, level 0, level 1, level 2 and level 3, right from the grassroots to the national level emergencies. In similar type of thing, we have to categorize the incident also to understand and how to respond in case of any severe exigencies. So if you can easily see, I have quoted in a single slide that what is minor. It is one capable of being dealt with fairly effective and quickly by personnel on the spot using emergency equipments. Example is quite clear: fire extinguishers and monitors on hand. Situation can be dealt with by the workforce, possibly including a fire brigade, fairly rapidly. It is reasonably localized and no other unit is affected. So in case of your plant or say your workplace, or if you are a responder, wherever you go, when you have enough amount of equipments and you don't require any other supportive equipments, then it is considered as minor in case of severe emergencies. Talking about the category 1, it requires one requiring additional resources, but which can be dealt with by the site operator and internal fire brigade. Some thought needs, however, to be given as to whether and when the public emergency should be notified. The incident could escalate and result in the personnel on site requiring assistance quickly. Example is again small electric shock which can be controlled by local operators. What we have to bifurcate is that there is a small difference between minor and category 1. In minor, you don't have to focus much, and it is a routine process, and any kind of exigencies can be easily mitigated at the site. In category 1, yes, you have to focus upon operators who are skilled and learn it. Next is again there is the chance for public emergency services is required or not. So this is a point of consideration where you have to think that okay, in case of category 1, we have to alert the authorities or not. But yes, again it is also on the lower side, just correct with level 0 and level 1. Category 2, again, it is one that clearly recognizable from the outset as beyond the capabilities of the forces to hand. For example, workforce, whosoever there, talking about the industry side, you have the safety officers and a team of capable safety professionals in the team. But talk about a chemical you are dealing, for example, you are dealing with the chlorine leakage. Then, in case, what is your mechanism? Do you have enough fire tenders? Do you have enough PPs? All these things come to the consideration, and it can go beyond the capabilities of the forces to hand. The emergency services should be informed immediately of the magnitude of the incident and specific location, so that external the support can be achieved and the resource sent in response. Example, number of fire appliances, ambulance, police needs to be predetermined by good pre-planning. So again, it requires say mutual aid support also. For example, if we have a natural gas zone and it got leaked, then it is not the only requirement of the owner occupier, but yes, the people whosoever are nearby vicinity can also assist us. It generally considers into category 2. And the last category 3, an emergency of major proportions. It may be escalated from a smaller incident and or arise instantaneously. Example, due to a confined or unconfined vapor cloud explosion or a catastrophic failure of a storage vessel. Again, vapor cloud explosion is big, again it's a big fire whenever any boiling liquid expands, it generally produce a vapor cloud. Just see an example of a say container having explosive material with which is also inflammable and it causes fire. So on a very small time, it will impact a major amount of building or the community of the population. So it is also a big consideration. So whichever is not going beyond your coping capacity is coming to category 3. The response from the emergency services will again need to be predetermined by the pre-planning and extensive evacuation of the general public may be required. So in case of category 3, one example you can easily Google out in Pakistan, where a tanker of petrol got leaked. It got accident over there, and somebody was smoking or thrown a matchstick over there, and a huge fire come into that particular zone, and around 350 plus people got affected in a very small time. So again, it is a category 3 type of incident which cannot be mitigated by the local authorities. So, in case of disasters, you have seen level 0, level 2, level 1, level 2, level 3. In categorization, you will quote it as minor, category 1, category 2, category 3, but it is majorly focused upon the response part. It is not very much, say, talks about the pre or post planning. If you are planned very well, in case of response, you can easily categorize because it's an incident that means it is going to happen or something happened. So, you will easily understand with the help of this particular slides that what is the minor, what is category 1, what is category 2 and category 3, depending upon your local capacity or the resource mobilization. Now, now there are few more things which is very much required: incident consequences and its management.
Dr. Kunal Sharma, we are not able to hear you. Are you there? I think there is some disconnection.
Okay, it is correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we are focusing upon the incident consequences and its management. The international organizations, see, there are a number of international organizations which deal with this particular incident management. Some are for chemical, some are for biological, some are for nuclear radiological. But yes, there are certain steps or say requisite details which directly focus upon the consequences
Dr.
of
Kunal
any incident.
Sharma,
So the international organizations, yes, sir.
excuse me, please. You have to
Sir,
you have to share the screen. I think there is some problem. We can't see this.
okay. It is, sir, visible?
Yes, now it is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So there are certain organizations with the latest approach to defense against weapons for destructions, or we are already quoting it as weapons for mass destruction in case of CBRN. There are three important pillars of protection against any CBRN incident and the consequences. We can quote it as prevention, protection, and recovery. In prevention part, we prevent, treat, and recover is very much important. Each of them occupies a unique place in the system and can be filled with the commitment of special capabilities. In this particular slide, you have to remember these three pillars for any event management incident management and its consequences management. There is first thing is prevent, protect, and recover. So simultaneously, we will see how to prevent, how to protect, and how to recover for any CBR incident. In this case, we are particularly focused upon the response part because incident had took place, and we have to focus upon that part. Yes, there are certain applications available in the market which can help us about the impact of any disaster. But as we know that technology is not 100% sufficient in case of emergencies, we have to focus upon our human say intervention also for getting response in case of management. So first pillar, as I have already quoted. So when we focus upon the first pillar, it expresses capabilities necessary to avoid, prevent, or stop threatened or actual use of WMD or CBRN devices by state and non-state actors. So it is the first thing. It is our capabilities. First pillar clearly expresses about the capabilities. We have to avoid, prevent, and stop. This is the first three terms. If we remember, we can easily say that it could be easily managed. Second, preventive steps in this particular pillar leads to disabling an enemy to successfully deploy and use WMDs, thus preventing the emergence of a CBRN event. That means if we are preventing, example, I would quote that if we know very well that yes, we are in a zone of major accidental hazard unit, and we have say around 4 to 5 different chemicals which has the potential to form toxic fumes up to say 4 to 5 feet, and we have enough amount of say water curtain or say extinguishers that we can use, then we can easily stop any person who is using it as a malicious event. So to this, it is able to use a range of activities that are initiated by diplomatic and political steps also. For example, the government or any government, the state actor should have enough number of PPs. Parallelly, we have enough number of sensors so that in case of any leakage, we can use this. Again, I'm quoting this thing because what is known to us is very easy to properties of certain chemicals which we are using ammonia. We know about this, but what about their precursors or different type of chemicals which is not known to, or different type of agents? However, it is also possible to military intervene with the rules of force, that is rules of engagement, what we call as a military system ROE. It can also be used because again you are on to second phase. So CBRN in particular is not restricted to the civil domain, but yes, a step ahead. It is very much related to military, paramilitary forces, wherein they have to respond in case of mass casualty events. So first pillar we have to very much remember about avoid, prevent, or stop about actual use of WMD. Example: preventing smuggling, interdiction operations of WMD or their components, collecting evidence and attributions of ownership and responsibility of actions. It is the first part because knowing or unknowingly, if we are not able to collect data regarding this thing, so we are not able to correlate what actually it was, or is it a CBRN event or it's a small leak type of thing. So this is very much understood. Last but not least, offensive operations against WMD or their carriers, use of air defense systems against ballistic missiles or other preventive actions can also an option. Right now, we are into those phase that in the next system, these are very easily available and say cheap kind of agents which is available in the market. So this can be very understood. In the second phase, we have to understand that what actually we want and what could be the effect in the this thing. The first place should be very clear. Second pillar expresses necessary capabilities to protect. First thing we have avoided or prevented. Next is to protect against the use of WMD or and CBRN devices by state and non-state actors, and preparations to respond to imminent or actual WMD or CBRN attack. See, again, I have already quoted, and you all have learned about the in the lectures also the shielding of the radioactive waves, alpha, beta, gamma. So we can have a protection system particularly in this thing, or for biological part also we have seen COVID case, a small say ppe, what we call as mask, is used to protect us from a potential COVID or coronavirus. So this is a thing which we can think, but it could time. Again, it's a warfare type of things. Number of casualties are too much, people affected are too much, so we have to focus upon that part. It focuses on the aspects of protection against CBRN agents. Measures specifically include early detection and identification, warning and reporting measures to avoid contamination, use of individual and collective protection equipment, as well as decontamination of the troops. Again, if you are contaminated during any event, we have to protect all the systems, equipment, as well as the responders. This is also very much required. this can be considered as a set of classical CBRN defense tasks. So protection is very much required wherever this type of malicious event is there, attack is there. So in that case, we have to focus upon this particular pillar to protect ourselves as well as our equipment with the technologies about the decontamination, which I will be taking in the next coming sessions. How to decon, what type of equipment we have to use, and what is the mechanism of decontamination if somebody is exposed to, say, chemical agents or chemical warfare agents. So second pillar clearly talks about the protection part. Third and the last pillar, this pillar supports to civil authorities with consequence management. Again, if there is attack, potential attack, or say act of terrorism, then civil authorities has to be a picture. It is very much evident that civil authorities are not very much related to CBRN type of things because it is not in their domain. Talk about the chemicals in the factories. Wherever we are using the chemicals or say radioactive materials, actually the government already knows or the authorities already know which type of chemicals, which type of agents, which type of radionuclide material is present in the district. So, but when it is being used as a terrorism activity or attack activities, the consequences are quite different. So, in this case, we have to support the civil authorities with consequence management. We know very well as in responders or as a trained professionals that how to respond. Efforts to restore essential capability, protect health and safety, and provide emergency relief. Recovering from a CBRN event to include immediate actions to prevent the spread of threats, save lives, and enable continuation of operations is also much required. It comprises of removing of consequences of incident, and these measures led to reduction or complete elimination of negative effects of CBRN contamination and returns the damaged system to a working state. Again, if you have learned about something about Sendai framework, you have know about the four priorities. In the last priority, it talks about the relief, recovery, and rehabilitation plus build back better. The same is the third pillar talks about. It talks about the restoring capacity. For example, we have prevented, protected, and the last is to again recover to the normal working state. So these three pillars should be there in mind that we have to focus upon this part during any incident and the consequence at that part because it's a response phase and wherein we have to focus upon all the things in a particular manner. So these are three pillars which is very much required for any incident management and particularly consequence management of any CBR incident. Now talks about the definition of consequence management. We have seen the incident and now what the bodies say about the consequence management or how to define. Some international organization defines consequence management as actions to maintain or restore essential services and to lessen the effects of natural or man-made disaster. So in this particular line, we can easily say it talks about the natural or man-made disasters in a broader terms. It is not talking particularly about CBRN, so it is obvious that it does not include a more accurate meaning with regards to CBRN contamination. It is telling about the natural or man-made disaster. It could say human error is a man-made disaster, or say we are talking about the certain type of man-made disaster. For example, road accidents are there, and this type of accidents we have seen. But what about the CBRN part? So again, a narrower definition is offered for CBRN defense, which defines CBRN consequence management as measures taken to mitigate the damage, loss, hardship, and suffering caused by catastrophic disasters or hostile action. So it somewhat includes about the consequence management of CBRN. It also includes measures to restore essential services, protect public health and safety, and provide emergency relief to affected population. So during the CBRN response part, we have to focus upon that part because the contamination is too much, people are too much affected. So we have to focus upon that part. Measures taken to mitigate the damage, loss, hardship, and suffering caused by catastrophe. For example, you have seen the Bhopal gas disaster. Suffering was a bigger concern. Yes, people got died, but suffering is still till date. Suffering is there, and those whoever got affected, their families are affected. Suffering has not discontinued till now. So again, it's a big thing which we have to focus upon. Now, to support CBR consequence management operations with existing means and capabilities, the international doctrine emphasizes in certain following areas. So again, we have limited resources. We cannot say to the government or to the bodies, you go and purchase lakhs of PPEs and we will work in that zone only. When we have enough number of PPEs, then we have antidotes and all the things. But this is not feasible and this is not practically accepted. So in this case, what are the important areas which international organization says? They says to support civilian consequence management, we require logistic supports and resupply, which can easily be gained.
Dr.
Protection.
Sarma,
Sir.
please. I think there is some problem with sharing of PPTs.
Okay.
The slides are not going forward. We are still at the incident consequences and its management. Slide number, of course, is not given here.
Now it is visible.
No, it will take time little. No, not yet.
Now it is, sir.
Yes, now it is okay. Thank you.
So this slide has been seen by you. Definition of consequence management,
Yes,
and I have already quoted.
right.
Yes, you can see the red board highlighted. There are two definitions, and there is small definitions difference between the international relations, which talks about consequence management, and what actually we have to focus upon the CBRN part. It is basically related to measures taken to mitigate the damage, loss, and hardship suffering caused by catastrophes.
Go ahead, please.
Now, yeah, this actually I was talking about that what all things we require to support CBRN consequence management. The first thing is logistic supports and resupply. This is the first thing again to cater any incident or respond any consequences. We require logistic supports to the responders and resupply of all the materials, for example, fuel, other logistics, transport, medicines, everything is required. Force protection, documentation and reporting requirements, decontaminations, environmental considerations to prevent pollution and restore the area, medical issues that include personal protections, casualty handling operations, medical screening, etc., liaison with local, regional, and host national officials as required, and public affairs activities. Why I am quoting all these things? Actually, it is written very in a simple way that we require logistic support and supply. I would like to share a small case study which we have encountered during our response phase. There is small, not about the CBRN disaster. It was basically a man-made disaster in a district in Bihar where the paramilitary force have been called. Just it was a heavy rain over there, and they said we want a deployment of, say for example, 2 or 3 units of paramilitary forces. Just send it. So DM has requested to the authorities, and authorities have sent the troops, or say 3 units of paramilitary force over there. The problem comes when the paramilitary forces reach to the location and they ask the district magistrate, sir, where we have to stay, because we have traveled say 12 hours and then we are here. At that time, the district administration was not very much confirmed that where they have to arrange the stay of all these 120 odd people. So it was very tough situation because first of all you have to go for the response part, and until unless your complete team is in right condition, they are not able to respond. So this type of things occur, and talks about the CBRN consequence management. There is a consequence of CBRN, and wherein we are not able to provide supports to the responders even, then how can we support to the victims over there? So this is the things which we have seen. So all these things very much required, wherein liaison with local, regional, or host nation officials are much required. We have seen this in our experience also in NDMA, that foreign countries also have asked for some relief material, and we have tried to send them material, but when the material reach the location, they directly told we don't want this type of material, just bring certain other type of materials. So all these things are very much required, and when we talk about CBRN, it is very very tough for us to mitigate this type of situations. Now, role for consequence management for CBRN incidents. What are the roles? The primary goals of CBRN consequence management are to very clearly save lives, prevent injury, provide temporary critical life support, protect critical property, infrastructure, and the environment, restore essential operations, contain the event, and preserve national security. So these are the primary goals which we have to focus upon. This is the broader aim of any disasters, but for CBRN, it is too pertinent that we have to focus upon this part, because again, preserve national security is a very big thing. We have a potential act of attack of chemical or say radionuclear, and we have to focus upon all the things. It is not that we can say we can leave the situation, and as a responders, everybody of us has to play a role, which requires primary say primary assistance to the victim or the to victim states. Again, the international CBR incident management principles of contamination is avoidance, protection, and decontamination support these same goals. It again comprises of saving lives, preventing injury, providing temporary critical life support, protecting critical property, restoring essential operations, containing the event, and preserving national security. So the CBR consequence as well as the definition of international, you can correlate it with bodies like NATO, which also says about this particular thing. Yes, we have to focus upon this thing in primary goals, as well as when there is a contamination zone, then also avoidance, protection, and decontamination support for these same goals. Now, one by one, we will think what about the saving lives? What are the important parameters saving lives? Saving lives is the latest priority during consequence management operations. This is the first aim, I think, which we all are here for, as in first responder, and particularly we are studying something about disaster. We have to save lives of victim, responders, or whosoever is there. Includes immediate life-saving measures given by first responder, life-sustaining techniques, immediate decontamination, and prophylaxis to ensure long-term casualty care, treatment, and safety. So this is the first thing by the user techniques. If we have a team of medical professionals, they can easily understand what they have to do in case of emergency. Second thing is preventing injury. In this case, protection related measures to help prevent or mitigate exposure to hazards that cause injury or illness, and it includes setting up of a security parameter and establishing hazard control zones. Providing temporary critical life support, it focuses upon response related to measures are conducted to assist civil authorities in the provision of medical services to injured personnel. The thought process in this particular second phase, you have to focus upon that. What we all things, what the system things that you all are trained and you are having the knowledge of basics of CBR, but how to respond on the ground is again a big thing. Whenever you are getting a chance or you have to support the
Dr.
authorities or
Kunal,
you, sir,
sorry, once again, the same problem. Slide is not
again,
moving forward.
actually it is.
Still, we are on the same
No,
first slide, consequence management.
now, sir, it
Deficit.
is moving.
No,
No, sir. Now it is visible, sir.
hello?
Now is it visible?
Yeah, it was visible. Now it is visible. Saving lives, preventing injury. This
Okay.
slide, right?
I
But
think it is network issue, sir. But
please check whether it is moving forward. Try for the next slide.
you,
No? Ah, yes. Okay.
it is moving.
Yes,
Okay. Again,
continue.
sorry for the this network issues. Yeah.
Continue.
The third point where we all are here was protecting critical property infrastructure in the environment. Again, in case of CBRN, all the things are very much affected. Property are affected, infrastructure and environment. The protection of critical property infrastructure and the environment occurs through the rapid application of decontamination efforts, early warning, reporting of incidents, and protection of key personals. Command decisions to shelter in place or evacuate also support the protection of resources. Restoring essential operations, again, it's a very much important to restore. For example, you all have seen in case of major, say, tsunami or cyclone or tornado type things, the first thing is the communication breakdown. So in this case also we require certain technologies, or say we have developed, government of India and NDM has developed priority call routing, wherein important mobile numbers of important persons will not be struck. They will be able to talk to each other. So again, restoring all these things is must required. Again, following a severe and different, a likely consequence is loss of one of the essential services or operations. Rapid restoration of power, water, communication nodes, and transportation routes accompanied by decontamination efforts are vital to continuing critical command visions. Containing the event, controlling access to an incident site, and conducting proper decontamination procedures limit the spread of contamination. Establishing hazard control zone, cold, warm, hot. I hope you have heard these words. Cold, warm, and hot zone helps to ensure safe work areas for emergency responders and supporting resources. So all these things should be very much in line how to contain the event. Preserving national security, civil and defense principles contribute to the preservation of national security by protecting critical infrastructures. Again, it's a role, and those who are from military background knows very well which things we have to secure first and which we can leave for the second part. When military forces are prepared to respond an incident, it supports the largest strategic goal for preserving national security. Military as well as paramilitary also there. They are focusing on this particular part. Now, what are the tasks for CBR incident management, or say particularly CBR incident plus consequent management? First is that urban search and rescue, that is called hot zone extraction, in cooperation between the deployed force and a stricken nation's responder. Management of affected persons, typically with the help of triage and registrations, because somebody got affected. Just think about the COVID part. You all have know about the Aadhaar enabled systems, and all are registered so that we can easily correlate. Similarly, when you go in high altitude areas, you can easily understand that. Just giving a small example of Char Dham Yatra, when you go for the Yatra, you will have to fill a simple form, and you will get a call from the authorities after 1 month to 2 months that we are in a travel to Chardham, and have you returned to this place or not? Just go and confirm. And similarly, in case of CBN also, we have to focus upon this part for the registration and triage. We can use the now Aadhaar is there, so we can use this particular technology also. Decontamination of CBRN, contaminated individuals and contaminated casualties, including consideration for gender and religious aspects to the extent that is operationally feasible. You can easily correlate with this particular line that during the COVID period, we have to focus upon all this part. It was a biological event, incident. It could be attack, it could be anything, but how to treat the casualties, very big deep big problem to the system. Measures to mitigate consequences, that is includes the removal, containment, etc. Is again a task. Again, one task is to support CBR forensics by sampling and identification of biological, chemical, or radiological agents. It is called as SIBCRA, sampling, identification, biological, of chemical or radiological agents. It is again required to understand and visualize and to develop antidotes if required. Similarly, that we have did in the COVID case. CBRN reconnaissance for delimitations of hazardous areas and contamination levels, and management of consequences after missile intercept or missile engagement. Again, focus upon the CBRN part. We did not require any say explosive material in the missiles. They can easily fill that particular thing with a packet of chemical, and they will throw. So all these things are very required, but these are the tasks for CBRN incident management. As an now you are on the second phase, so you will understand that how we have to focus upon this part, how will do the containment, removal, and all these things. Now, this is certain slide that required capabilities to support CBR incident consequence management operations. What are the capabilities which is required? In particular, you can see there are certain things I have written over here: logistic supports, command control, assessment of CBR environments, crisis communications, crisis planning, detection, identification, quantification, search and rescue, handling the with contaminants, decontaminations, protection against explosives. So it requires certain capabilities for each and every sections. If you see the sections, for example, logistics about what are the capabilities, what are the SOPs which we required, or talking about the decon part, what are the decon procedures, for determination of hazard control zones, there should be capabilities of a particular group of responders. For example, you all are responders, and what are the capabilities you require for each and particular zone. So I will not highlight each and every one, but yes, I will try to share you some of the important parameters where you can visualize and ascertain that okay, it is much required, and we can focus on this particular capabilities for incident management due to CBR materials. First thing is for command and control. So for command control, providing command and control, here in I have written C2 of the troops in the hazard control zones. It includes directions, advice, overview, and control of units performing the mission. During the mock drill session, you all have seen the mechanism how NDRF people as a body system goes inside a containment zone and then rescue the people and cordon off the area, contain the area. So this is particularly for command and control. It includes creation and maintenance of the command and control structure, which controls specific actions and is interoperable with participating units. Command and control capabilities must support all pending operations and requirements of higher headquarters to receive reports. The capability of CBR and reach back through internal classified and unclassified communications with higher headquarters and supported headquarters is also included, and external CBR and reach back connected to experts and specialists of different scientific disciplines is also required. Plus, command control capability must be compatible with other responders and military forces. The example is that if you are in a particular zone wherein you have been approached or you are supporting to any authority with other responders as well. Example would be very easy that during certain sessions you all have heard about a terminology called GHS, globally harmonized systems of understanding the chemicals. So GHS is a very simple thing wherein a person sitting in India can easily understand the SOP or the protocols or the MSDS, material safety data sheet of a chemical which have been manufactured in Israel. The similar thing we have to focus upon that it should not be that such type of command and control wherein multiple organizations are giving the instructions and we are not able to understand. For example, certain incident commander is giving a command to us that you don't have to go downwind, and you are not able to understand what is downwind. Or say and there are issues with the understanding of the language. So all should not be there. In this case, we require certain capabilities for a proper command and control. The area especially includes capabilities to first thing is to create a command structure for an effective response. It should be compatible and interoperable with participating units and first responders. It should also provide staff with accurate information to support the decision-making process. It should not be vague that okay, we have only say 10 canisters and we have to cater a say casualty of around 1,000 people. So it should be very clearly utilize experience gained from operations in favor of lessons learned. It should have the capabilities to provide liaison teams and evaluating teams to participating organizations. It should use it has the capability to use CBRN reach back through classified and unclassified communications. It should provide command and control of tactical units in hazard control zones, provide CBRN local models and meteorological data, and integrate network detectors to monitor dangerous parameters. So these are the capabilities which any responders, whosoever is going for the response part or he's going for the incident management or say consequence management, these all things should be very clearly defined, and we have to focus upon this particular things to respond in a very managed and disciplined way, because any indiscipline or say any breach in the SOP will again be a big problem for us, and we are not able to identify or mitigate the situation, contain the situation. Next part is assessment of CBRN environments. In this case, correct assessment enables future requirements necessary for planning and conducting operations to be predicted. These activities include assessment of threat, preparedness, tactics, methods of detection, and analysis and monitoring the progress. Just for example, some people in our team is from factory side also. So there is a terminology we called in industry as industrial hygiene. So industrial hygiene is very big term. Similarly, we can go for the CBR hygiene. That means what are the contaminants in the air, what is the ambient air, we have done sampling or not, of the particular area, what is the method of detection, what type of equipments we have to use, how to monitor these things. It should be involved in this thing. The task includes assessment and characterization of the operating area, including the integration of data to determine location and source of severe contamination. It includes use of intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance (ISR) that assets to determine the location of the incident and to perform detection, identification, and quantification. So again, we have to focus upon severe environment also. It is not very easy, and as a layman, we go into a particular zone which have severe contaminants. We cannot be able to assess the things, because again we have studied something about serene type of agents also, which don't have any texture and say nature of this thing. So again, we have required some capabilities. So what capabilities we required? The area of this particular zone for severe environment especially includes certain capabilities. First, capability to assess and characterize severe threats in the operating area, specify potential weapon for mass destruction, severe impact on operations, capabilities to cooperate and share tactical situation awareness, capabilities to disseminate information in near real time, capabilities to predict hazards and model severe situation, and capabilities to control meteorological data in relation to severe situation. So these are certain capabilities which should be there with the team, and as an responders we have this type of capabilities, so that in case of incident management, we will not be a loser. We can easily understand how to focus on this particular zones. Third is the crisis planning. Through crisis planning, plan and procedures for establishing necessary capabilities to conduct consequence management operations are developed. It integrates affiliated force, both military and non-military, and defines their particular roles and responsibilities. It specifies tasks of subordinate units and includes creating contingency plan for dealing with unforeseen circumstances. What happens in case of disaster also, generally, what is our structure? We talk about as we have learned also, studied also, that if there is a disaster and there is a body called DDM in district, that is district disaster authority. The overall authority or the chairman of that authority is basically district magistrate or district collector. There are situations, evident situations, wherein DM has authority, but he never faced any severe situation. Just give an example of a say district of Jharkhand, a district called Palamu is there. So Palamu don't have any this type of CBR and events, because it's a place where most of the people are basically dependent on the agriculture process. There is no such factories, no movement of any radioactive material. But again, the DM is not focusing about all these parts. In these type of scenarios, we have to again focus who should take the charge of incident commander, and how to assist the district magistrate. Even though district magistrate is there, how to specify tasks to subordinate units. All these things are very much important in case of crisis planning. So the capabilities, again, which type of capabilities are required? The capabilities required is to apply crisis planning procedure on tactical level, capabilities to integrate planners from different departments and branches. For example, the DM has never faced, but yes, he can correlate and call the people who are expert in this field. Capabilities to plan CBR reconnaissance and survey operations, capabilities to plan decontamination operations, capabilities to plan search, rescue, and extractions of contaminated or affected persons, and capabilities to plan provision of temporary shelters to include handover and evacuation of affected persons. So classic crisis planning again requires certain capabilities, and what are the inclusion? I have already put it over here. Next is the crisis communication. How to communicate in the crisis? Again, it is the ability to manage and maintain communication solutions for any incident or identified or expected threat. It includes creation of a common system of alerts and warnings to collect and disseminate information about the incident. It should not be like that. What we actually want, we have put it, given SOP, say serial number 1, 2, 3 should have this data, and we are getting some other data. So again, it should be very, very clearly mentions how to communicate. Such information is intended for the public, joint forces, representatives of a host nation, as well as government and non-governmental organizations. In this manner, CBRN related intelligence informations concerning real or potential threats is also disseminated. So if there is a war type of situation also, then also we can have this, and there should be a specific capability which requires during the communication in case of crisis, particularly for CBRN part. Special capabilities for this crisis communication is capabilities to build a common system of alerts and warning. As I said, common alerting protocol should be there, and capabilities to ensure the flow of information and reports concerning threats. It should be very clearly mentioned that what type of information they require. Unify the system of transmitting warning signals and formats of the warning and reporting system. integrate data, capability to integrate data in a common operational pictures, capabilities to build a common system for cyber-related intelligence reporting, and capabilities to automatically warn about the threat on the basis of integrated network of detectors. For example, if there is a smoke and it is a toxic smoke, there should be a particular mechanism. How to go in that is again a big thing, but we have to understand and communicate in the proper way. Okay, during crisis, these all things are much required. Next is the detection, identification, and quantification. In this particular identification, detection, and quantification, it is implementation of these activities in the context of continuous management operations. It is more complex and technically demanding than that of conventional CBR and reconnaissance units. Detection, identification, quantification is done in a contaminated environment at the civilian specified immediate dangerous of life and health levels and in confined space. So IDLH is very much important. That is immediate dangerous of life and health. In case of CBRN, this term is very much used, that IDLH levels are what, and generally confined space is a very big problem. It also includes continual monitoring of dose rates and collection of samples. How much dose is there? Again, we have learned something about LD50, LC50, all the things. So these are the things where we go for that. Again, it requires specific capabilities. The specific capabilities includes capabilities to detect, identify, and quantify chemical hazards in concentration higher than the IDLH. Capabilities to detect, identify, and quantify biological and radiological hazards, conduct sampling of gases, solids, and liquids, conduct confirmatory identification of collected samples, and determine boundaries of contamination. Again, this, if it is not, we don't have the capability of this thing, we are victim of nerve agent and we are treating to certain other organophosphate category. So it is very much required. Is it a nerve agent or not? It is an organophosphate or not? Or it is simple chemical. So if we are able to detect, proper, quantify, okay, this is the problem, and these are the data we are getting. So in this case, we can respond very easily during any incident, and it is the requirement of capabilities. Next, determination of hazard control zones. In this case, delimitation of hazard control zones are measures to contain and control contamination, including marking of hazardous areas and maintaining limited access to and out of the incident site. It also includes enforcement of isolation and quarantine of affected persons. The capabilities for this area especially are determining capabilities to determine hazard control zone, that is hot zone, warm zone, and cold zone. Capabilities to contain and control the spread of contamination, to mark contaminated areas in a unified and agreed manner. Capabilities to control access to hazard parameter and to include crowd right control, and capabilities to enforce isolation and quarantine. So all should be very much clear, and these are the capabilities which very much required for hazard controls zoning part. For search, rescue, and extraction, in this case, search, rescue, and extractions of casualties and victims in hazardous environments includes assistance to persons who are physically and mentally indisposed after an incident and require medical treatment or personal care beyond first aid. We have seen in this case that society is stuck. They are not able to understand how to respond after this type of mass casualty or this type of event. So it is very much required for search, rescue, and extraction part. It encompasses management and implementation of life-saving procedures, evacuation of affected persons to a collection and sorting center, to decontamination areas, and also evacuations for medical treatment. The capabilities are the capabilities to build and operate search and extraction control centers, capabilities to locate, extricate, and extract casualties and victims from the contaminated area, capabilities to prepare affected persons for transportation using different types of structures and transport methods, protect affected persons from the effect of contamination during extraction, provide necessary life-saving procedures on the way from contaminated area, recognize the status of affected persons and prioritize, mark, and capabilities to mark buildings and structures in a very standardized way. So all these things are very much required. Next is handling with contaminants. In this activity, it comes to handling, treatment, storage, and transportation of contaminated equipments, materials, samples, remains, and waste. Because again, these all are contaminated during an incident, or the consequences should be there. It includes the range of activities from collection and labeling through handling and storage to disposal in accordance with the superior's intent. It also encompasses collection and handling of personal material of the deceased and medical evacuees. The specific, especially includes capabilities to manipulate and handle contaminated and infectious materials, samples, residues, and waste, capabilities to contain contaminated and infectious materials, samples, remains, and waste, store contaminated and infectious materials, samples, remains and waste, transport contaminated and fission materials, and sample in accordance with the correct procedures of handover. That is called chain of custody. How to handle, where to give, where will be it be disposed of, it requires forensic evidence or not, or where is the zone where we have to focus upon all this. So handling with the contaminant should have these type of capabilities for any incident management. So the decon part, decontamination, the area covers all decontamination activities oriented on CBR and consequence management specifics. It involves decontamination of both civilian and military persons working or lying, including victims and relevant equipments and materials. You have all seen during the mock drill or exercise that how they are deconning the equipments, how they are deconning the victims, how they are cutting the cloths, how they are using the water or fullers, whatever is there. 20 years people are doing, and you have seen all this decon procedures. It is to be expected that with activities such as removal or disposal of contaminated material, sealing, leaving to weathering, chemical neutralization, and other methods of removal of the contaminants. So again, it requires certain capabilities. The area especially includes capabilities to determine priorities of contamination, which we have to do first, because, for example, if we are deconning only the people and not equipment, again, it is a joint operation which requires decision making. Capabilities to manage building of joint decontamination sites and assembly points of contaminated personnel, decontaminate civilian and military personnel and responders, men and women separately. Capabilities to decontaminate injured, again, man and women separately is a big concern. Generally people don't focus upon this, but yes, if you see a huge amount of female victims are there, sorry, then we have to focus upon this particular thing. Decontaminate injured both ambulatory and non-ambulatory persons with provisions of medical care. Capabilities to decontaminate material and equipment, including oversized pieces. Capabilities to decontaminate critical infrastructure and hospitals. Capabilities to decontaminate operationally significant terrain, and capabilities to check efficacy of decontamination before and after the procedure. And last, capabilities to control outlet of contaminated waste and process water. So we have seen all these things that we have to focus upon contamination of all the particular things which have been seen in the incident site. Handling with human remains, again, is a big concern. These capabilities pertain to operations that require adequate handling with human remains. It includes labeling, handling, decontamination, handover, temporary storage, and preparation for transportation of contaminated human remains. It is necessary to follow health safety principles, focus on protection of sources, water and food will be example, and safe closure of human remains. The area especially includes capabilities to collect and safely manipulate contaminated human remains, capabilities to hand over temporary storage and transportation of contaminated human remains, decontaminate human remains, and capabilities to contain and dispose of processed water and waste. So all these things are much required at how to handle, because everything is contaminated and it's a CBRN event. So we have to focus upon all these things, including human excreta also. Protection against explosives. Again, this area covers protection of troops and population against the effect of explosives. It includes the following recommendations for residence and movement in explosive ordnance environments, marking the location of explosive material and utilizing technical means enhancing protection against explosive. The area especially includes capabilities. It is not very much required to you, but CBRN plus E is there. So for that part, I have put it that it requires certain capabilities, the capabilities to operate safely in explosive ordnance environment, capabilities to use jam radio frequencies, and capabilities to support explosive or ordnance reconnaissance, that is called EOR. It is much required for this part. For logistics supports, it is in summary providing logistical materials to support the protection of civilians, determination, allocation, and provision of resource necessary to protect individuals, critical infrastructure, and materials are included. The specific capabilities are to support availability of individual protective equipment, that is IPE, support availability of means of collective protection, COLPRO, and support materials protection of critical infrastructure and material in case of logistical support. So these all are the capabilities which also require emphasis much more. So for the conclusion part of this particular presentations, it requires planning for response to the emergence of a CBRN event is a important part of any tactical operations. A comprehensive CBRN incident management approach counts with conducting CBRN consequence management. For example, you have to focus upon incident as well as the consequence of the incident, which includes response to recovery from an incident and leads to mitigation of consequences on civilian as well as military personnel. You can include paramilitary also in this particular zone. This requires responding units which are equipped and trained beyond the typical military standard to protect troops against CBRN warfare, weapons of mass destruction, and they must be adapted for fulfillment of specific tasks of CBRN consequence management. So overall, our whole presentation is basically developing the capabilities which you all have to use in ground in case of any particular CBRN incident. If you are not able to use all these things and correlate step by step wherein you are fit, wherever you are fit in the particular zone. For example, you are assisting medical professionals, or you are supporting logistic part, or you are going for the evacuation, or you are helping the ambulance team, or you are doing a trial. Wherever you are there, then again, for a particular set of job, you have to focus upon a particular capability, which is much required and should be very much ascertained during your response time. So with this, thank you, and I'm open for any questions if there. Okay. So you can ask any question if you required. Any questions? So I think if there is no question, we can end the session over here, because so with this, thank you very much for the session. We will meet tomorrow the same time with the next topic. Thank you very much.